All right.
There's Danny and Ben. Hey guys, sorry about the long inventing.
You guys have a lot of stuff that you're doing.
A lot of stuff.
Holy moly!
They're trying to confuse us with these names switched here.
So Ben.
Yeah. Ben and Danny are swapped from what their names are on here.
So Ben and Danny are super awesome games, and they're an independent game design company. You guys want to talk a little bit about your company?
No, boring. We know all that already. We're independent. We work with other companies and like you guys, and
but we're the coolest ones.
We're the coolest. Yeah. And we've also known you for like 25 years or something at this point. Like we're all very old.
Danny and Ben used to shop in my game store approximately 1 million years ago.
I bought my first Magic cards in the Commons bin. We went with
we all agreed we were going to spend $10 in the Commons bin, and that the three.
How'd that work out for you?
Well,
still buying cards.
Put on the Pro Tour for a couple.
You still have some of the $10 left. That was very frugal.
Yeah, $10, and then one of the I think it was the same day. We were like the two of us, and then our other college roommate were like $10 each, and then like that same day, that same moment, he just was like, "I'm gonna buy this also," and it was like a pack.
He always does.
He just kind of went for it, and then we're like, "I guess we have to keep up with him." Yep. So and that was it. That's magic, and then and now we Hero Realms. when you switch this over, we're like intently playing the Hero Realms campaign on the app. We're like, well, we're live.
I think it's cheating.
So yeah, we make games or parts of games, or
I'll name some.
Sure. We work on we work on the Legendary Encounters series with Upper Deck, which is also where we used to work years ago as employees. That's like the Aliens movie, Predator, X-Files. There's a James Bond version now.
There's a Matrix one coming out.
Matrix coming out soon. Ooh. You want to name some of the other ones? No, it's just me. I have to.
There is no spoon.
Okay. There's the Versus system 2 PCG, which is a so we do a lot of co-op and PvE games. Like the Legendary games are mostly. Oh yeah, here's one.
This is the new set. It's
nice
mutant set.
That's awesome.
And that's more head-to-head PvP. But there's and it cuts across all kinds of IPs like Marvel Comics, and then like movie, like there's a Mortal Kombat set coming out. There's
and some crazy ones that we can't talk about, but that we're working on today. So
so
it must be fun working with the big IPs.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
It's pretty fun, especially when they mix together. Like when you're smashing like Buffy the Vampire Slayer against like Scully and Mulder from X-Files, or
Mulder and Thanos always seemed like a good pair.
Yeah, that's a fair matchup, I think.
Yeah. And then we do a ton of campaign stuff. So we do with Wise Wizard, we do like the Hero Realms campaign, the Star Realms campaign in that app, and so that kind of stuff. But today it's about Watery Graves. Watery Graves. Oh,
Watery Graves magically appears next to you.
Oh, good time.
I was lucky. So should we just talk about the story, the product?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, Watery Graves, obviously, this has been in the works for quite a while, and I don't know if people know how much goes into the creation of the Ruin of Thandar campaigns. There is so much ability to play as different in different ways, like basically like entirely different bosses and encounters depending on what you did and did previously, and just so many different so many different ways you can advance the story, which is so like the replayability is just absolutely through the roof. But that means the design time is kind of long.
So for people who are familiar with the first two, this is the third adventure,
and you keep putting out classes. So.
Yeah, you keep making it goes wider and taller, right? Yeah. And then Ancestries, right, is another multiplier. Yeah. So for people who are familiar or unfamiliar, I guess this is the third part of the Ruin of Thandar story, which is going to ultimately be 5 parts.
What were the first two?
The first one was the Ruin of Thandar, and you're and then you sort of stop a threat, and there's like a demon and all this stuff.
No spoilers. no spoilers. I was joking.
Yeah, no spoilers. Yeah, that one's been
Or
then,
you lose, you get killed,
or
by
you just
demon.
get murdered. Demon takes over the city and destroys everything. And then the second one is called the Lost Village, and that one you're sort of investigating. The players are investigating what happened to this village, and turns out, I won't spoil the
It's actually totally fine. It's like a benevolent person.
Yeah, they were just in the forest,
taking on vacation.
Yeah, it's a very short campaign. They're just around. You just have to go find them. But yeah, so speaking of, so basically the governor, the Lord Governor of Thandar, which is the main giant city that most of Hero Realms takes place at, he's like the bad guy in the second one is this evil kind of elf guy, and then the Lord Governor sends you guys to the Elf Kingdom, but you got to go by boat to get there, which then allows basically we get to have water adventures is what it boils down to. And speaking to your point about going wide and replay value and whatnot, we for those who have played the first two adventures, there you might be like encounter 2. Do you want to fight? You get sort of to pick this boss or that boss. There's 4 different demons at the end. In the second one, there's we put masters. There's one fight where there's 5 different masters, and each player kind of has to deal with one. But we went nuts with Watery Graves. We basically said, you know what, these do take a long time, so we want to have like way more replay value than we did in the first 2 adventures. So for example,
we get paid by the hour too, so
right.
It was a tactical,
So Watery Graves has 3 encounters. We're only going to really talk about the first one today because we don't want to spoil the second and third one. But
we won't make it out of the first one anyway.
Yeah. So. But the basically we said, okay, we're gonna have a water adventure. What kind of fun watery, aquatic kind of stuff are we gonna have? And we basically settled on pirates and a sea monster, and then some other stuff, which are some of it is small detail, some of it is, we're not gonna sort of talk about what happens in the middle of the story, but it's not good for the players. But
Watery Graves is there's a hint in the title.
Yeah, it's not just Watery Graves because you might die in the water. So and then there's some undead pictures on the box. So But yeah, so the first encounter is you're fighting against some pirates, but in terms of combinations, in terms of replay value, we basically said, all right, we're going to let the players have a ship, and what the ship is sort of an oversized card that sits in the middle of the board, and the idea is you're all on this ship as you're sort of traveling through the encounters, and but we said we're not. It has like a health value, kind of a hull value, which is basically there's bad guy minions and master effects and hazards that can damage the ship. If the ship gets reduced to 0, everybody loses. So you have to sort of keep the ship alive while also keeping the players alive. But we didn't want to just give you one ship. We said, okay, there's 4 different ships. So there's for example, that's the the working title is the Emperor's Arrow. So the idea is you're sort of working for the Imperials right now to find out what's going on.
And they have different abilities based on the one that you get to choose.
Right. So for example, this one, you have one of the special abilities that the ship has is a giant ballista. So you can see it in the front, and the idea is you have to sort of prep it, like load it, and then you can fire it, and it does like massive amounts of damage to the master. Yeah. The other ship, if you go back one to the pretty looking one, that's the Emperor's Grace, and the idea behind this one is
just a luxury cruise liner.
Yeah,
no weapons, but it has really nice beds.
Yeah, you guys are going to get a good night's sleep. So this one, the special ability gives you some cards that are basically shuffled into the player's decks that give them health and card draw. So just basically you're in a better position. The ship itself isn't going to do any fighting, but you're in a better position to fight the bad guys. So there's 4 different ships, and you take your ship with you throughout all 3 encounters. But then in the first encounter, you're attacked by pirates. Like, oh my goodness, pirates. And the pirate ship is
how we come up with that?
Just because we like pirates. I think it was pirates.
It's never been done before.
And we definitely didn't talk with pirate accents at any point during this. So that I skipped this part. So in addition to the ship that the players have, they also get crew members. When crew members are specific special champions that get shuffled into the market and can be purchased just like any other champion. They have an all hands on deck mechanic, which is basically whenever you play, when you just draw a card, so they don't really cost you a slot in your deck, and then they give you some benefit that often ties into what the different ship abilities are. Which I don't know if you talked about the ship abilities, but
a little bit. This guy just said he thought they'd be one of each faction. There's sort of are.
There's so. The Thandar factions are sort of this is zoomed way out about just Hero Realms in general, but the Thandar factions are not quite equal in terms of their size and the meaning behind them. So the Empire kind of runs Thandar. Thandar is this like port city where like people, the races from the species from the wildlands, like elves and orcs and whatever, they all come together. So that's why you'll see beings of all kinds of different species. But the Imperials kind of run that city, and then the Guild and the Necros, by comparison, are much smaller factions in terms of volume. Although they are very powerful in their own right. And
the Necros are pretty loud.
They're very loud. Yeah, they're because they're this evil cult, or not evil. They wouldn't say they're evil.
They're not big on navies, however.
Right. Yeah. So the idea is you're taking the ship with
They're like cats. They do not want to go in the water.
Right. So you're taking your ship, and it will have your champions and essentially the characters you acquire during the game, and that's your sort of entourage, and they can be from the different factions. But the ships are all they start with the Empire is supplying them for you, and as you're journeying to the wildlands where the elves are, the one of the elf kingdoms is located. So you get attacked by pirates, and the pirate ship is the master card, and there's 4 different pirates. So just like you have 4 different ships, there's 4 different pirate ships, and there's one that's there's one that's like demonic themed. There's one that's like got lots of cannons. There's one that's got I guess we could show some of these images, although I forgot to talk about it. So yeah, that's the ramming ship. That's the idea is it can sort of it goes after your ship. It can punch into
the
it.
master's ship.
Yeah, so that's the image that's found on the master card. And each of the 4 ships has different abilities. They're focused on different things. Like, for example, there's a ship that has lots of cannons. It's going to like blast your ship. The demonic ship has more insidious effects, like it can sort of go after the players and mess with your hands and that kind of stuff. And to go with the 4 ships, and this is where we talk about sort of the combinations that Rob was talking about. There's also 4 different pirate captains, and now these are not masters; these are special minions. That's the dwarf pirate captain. They stay in play the whole time next to the ship, and then they have a special ability. You know how you flip a card to from the master deck to see which of the master's abilities get triggered. The pirate captain also has an ability when a certain color is flipped, and then it has a dramatic effect.
Double trouble.
Also, you can't. They don't get killed. They don't get sort of stunned and then shuffled away. Put in the discard pile like regular minions. When you stun one of the captains, they just turn face down until a certain color is flipped from the master. Then they recover and they start doing their bad stuff again.
So you have to destroy the ship to win the encounter, but you can't let the captain stay face up, or it will not go well.
Right, and then each one, of course, has different. This is the elf captain. She's I don't want to say evil again, but she's not allied with the elven kingdoms where you're headed. And
rogue.
She's a rogue. She wants to take your stuff. She's gonna mess with your hand. There's a demon captain who wants your souls. There's and then there's the dwarf captain who just wants to blow you up because the dwarves want to have the only ships on the sea. At least that dwarf does. So thematically, each of the captains is kind of linked to one of the ships, but it's mechanically we set it up so you can mix and match. So there's actually 16 combinations of bad guys to fight, as well as another, multiply that by 4 for the player ships. And that's before we get into things like
the first encounter.
That's just encounter once. And
like Rob was saying, a lot of replay.
So I can see why this took you a while.
Yeah.
But the replayability is going to be absolutely through the roof on this because, as you said, there are so many different ways to play it. So you can play through it once and just have a whole bunch of cool like decision points and such. But if you want to replay, man, you can choose the different ships. You can fight against different bad guys. There's so many different combinations. How would this have done if we had a different ship to work with, or if we had fought against a different bad guy, or both. So yeah, just tons and tons of play options.
Right, yeah. And that's before you get to like, what is your class? What is your ancestry? What how did you go up skill trees and ability trees and what treasure? So it's kind of nuts in terms of
there's kind of like an infinite pool of possibilities in Hero Realms, which is one of the reasons on the physical game we're doing the digital testing, because it's just so many combinations. It's it's impossible for a small team to test everything enough. So bring in hundreds or thousands of people kicking the tires is wildly useful for that. And obviously we don't have that luxury with
Ships don't have tires, Rob.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Yeah, we only showed 2 of them. The other two are dry.
One is an amphibious.
Yeah.
Well, I love the art. I volunteer to be that evil rogue elf pirate captain at convention.
Nice. There's gonna be some fun cosplay happening.
Oh yeah, and that last image we forgot we didn't really talk about, but it's just a minion. It's not not a major card, but that's a vampire. So just for those of you with a vampire, one word, really good at sort of boarding actions, but only at
he leaped all the way from that other ship there.
Yeah, maybe he can fly.
He's flying, yeah.
But
I believe you're mispronouncing it. It's a vampire TM.
Vampire TM. But he only comes out at night. So like during the day, he's kind of under the decks. It's not.
Not a particularly useful crew member for day ops.
No.
Yeah.
I love it.
Really good at night.
And then we have other we had hazards in the previous two adventures. The hazards here are all water themed, and they all sort of function the same way. Basically, we added some more stuff, so we had to simplify some other stuff because that's at some point it's just too many things. In fact, that's where we started, and that was a while before we pulled back.
This is the streamlined, tight version.
Yeah.
So,
and then so your ships, for example, they have different abilities, and each turn you get to sort of flip 2 cards from the market which have colors, and then that determines kind of which abilities you can choose from. So it could be your load the ballista or fire it. If it's already loaded, one of them is called maneuvering, and that lets you sort of avoid hazards that there's like a whirlpool and there's like a choppy seas and stuff, and some hazards you have to like maneuver twice to get through, and some you can just.
What if you get the same color though?
Then you get a bonus. Then you get a bonus when you get the same color. So
you don't get a choice.
You get to do it twice. Yep. Basically, each turn your ship action you get one of the 4 abilities. You either get to choose one of 2 that you flipped, or multiple. Some of the crew members let you flip extra cards, or if you flip the same color twice, you get that action twice. So, for example, you could load and fire the ballista in one turn. That kind of stuff. So that's the main good guy mechanic.
The ballista is very fun.
The ballista, ballista is fun. I just always want to be the ballista, but.
At the expense of winning, I often will be like, "Let's load and fire the ballista."
Yeah, I would scrap you if I
if
I could win.
I'll
would scrap Rob.
I'll never scrap you.
And then we have we're not going to go into the details of the second or third encounters. I want to save that, but it's the same kind of combinations. It's there's sort of there's 3 different masters in the second encounter, and then 3 different power sources, so to speak. And then in the second encounter, it doesn't just affect what the sort of the main guys do, but it also affects what minions you're going to be facing.
I can't wait for people to see the third one. Especially, the second one's great, really fun too, but the third's
the best one.
Amazing. The art's unbelievable. So.
And one of the great things is the art in Hero Realms. They're like such fantastic stuff, and obviously getting that level of art in that kind of the kind of quantity that we do for these sets, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, and honestly, I don't know of any other game product at that price point that has that level of art commitment. Because like the Watery Graves set, it's a little box. It's like $24, but it's got like a whole TCG set worth of
art.
At least
and it really, really high level stuff, just beautiful art, and it's all human art. There's no like AI art in there. It's all like real artists around the world doing just phenomenal work on this stuff, as you can see on these images that we've been throwing up. But that is another reason for the time that we take with each of these sets. So basically, each installment takes a while for players to get, but when you get it, just really the highest quality stuff we could do both on the gameplay and on the visual side. So I'm really proud of this.
Oh, sorry, you should be proud. And with this product especially, I just remember so many emails and phone calls, and Rob always just says, "Yes, let's do more. Let's make it. If this makes it great, let's do more art and make it great. So,
Rob, can we add 20 more cards? Yeah.
So Rob, now that we're on video, we need 20 more cards.
Yeah, 20 more. All
So,
unique cards.
can we put them in the next set because we really got to go to print?
Okay.
No.
I know
We have to make the
people
art.
have been
We'll do the art.
asking for a long. People have been asking a lot about this, so so it's great to have you on here talking about it.
And then the fourth adventure, we're just gonna have one boss per encounter, and we're only gonna have one encounter, so we're gonna get it done like 10 minutes.
No, like one piece of art.
It's Cybus, the big single card boss from the base, from the original set.
And so, so speaking of that, people have asked a lot about, okay, what's going on with Ruin of Thandar versus the Dungeons campaign. So the Dungeon campaign is a separate story, separate campaigns. So it's like if you own like D&D and you have modules for characters for level 1 to 6 or whatever, this would be like a completely different campaign for low level players. So they aren't play one and then play the other. They're two separate stories for different adventure groups. However, you'll be able to take the characters from the new dungeon set. If you get, like, for example, the Druid with the Druid's Adventure deck, you will be able to take the Druid through the Ruin of Thandar campaign, and we'll have instructions on, when the Ruin of Thandar campaign says, to grab treasures and such, we'll have like little numbers on the treasures and indicate, okay, in this encounter, you're going to use these treasures. In that encounter, you're going to use those. And then when in the future, when we do campaign stuff, we'll be referencing those number things in the campaign stuff to make it compatible for more classes. But we'll have stuff online and in the adventure decks to explain how to use these new characters through the Ruin of Thandar series, or you'll be able to take the original characters through the dungeon encounter series. So with the dungeon campaign, it goes pretty deep, but it's much less wide. So basically, in that one, we've got 12 encounters, and each one has like an envelope and stuff. And there are some decisions you make that will affect things, but encounter 4 is always encounter 4, same bad guys, etc. So we were able to do like 12 encounters in one box set, but the replayability will be much lower than in the Ruin of Thandar stuff. So basically, the goal of that one is to give people that campaign gameplay experience and give them the ability to go through a whole bunch of encounters. And of course, the replayability will be good. You'll be able to replay it several times, but it doesn't have the phenomenal replayability of the Ruin of Thandar series, where you get to make all kinds of different choices and fight entirely different bad guys if you go down one path versus another, etc. So that's sort of the difference between these campaigns. But and we're going to be making more campaigns in the future. And as Danny and Ben were saying, there are campaigns in the digital app, and these are completely separate campaigns with their own stories that you can play digitally, and they're really fun. Like I've definitely had times where I hooped out loud, in the middle of a game in the digital campaigns, out of like things that happened during play. Just a really rich. We're trying to make a really rich world with lots and lots of different stories happening, lots of different campaign experiences, etc.
If anyone has any questions for Danny and Ben, none. I haven't seen any specifically come in. I know they're new guests.
We just cover everything.
And this is the first, we've heard about details about Watery Graves. So we will be clipping this and posting it also on social media so more people can see it, and we'll likely get questions that I'll be coming to you for answers for as well. If anyone has any questions for them, you can pop them in here now.
So I was thinking it'd be fun to do an alternate universe campaign where the players lost the first Ruin of Thandar series, and you go on an adventure in Demon Thandar.
It's bad. It's all bad. Thandar's gone.
It's so bad.
Yeah. You just join them.
You have to hide in the dungeons of the second market deck. That's why it's called Dungeons. We're all prisoners. It's not dungeons like Dungeons and Dragons. We're just teamed up. It's just it went badly. But No, yeah.
You're still saying stuff.
I'm still saying stuff. Well, there's no.
You don't have to use this stuff.
I want more of when you flip a certain color card, the boss helps you out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Or like,
I have bad news for you.
yeah, I feel like every time it's like smash, smash, smash with bad guys.
Yeah, they're so mean. There's sometimes you find a helpful thing, like the captive, when you rescue the captive in that first one.
Yeah.
The digital campaign
Does
has
the
lots
captive
of
turn out? Oh,
he helps you.
yeah, he helps you.
Everybody. No, Tress of the Emerald Sea. I haven't read that. Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
No, I have to check it out now.
Did Dan the Meek write it?
Dan the Meek, did you write Tress of the Emerald Sea?
Well, we'll give him a chance to answer that.
Cool,
And
check it out.
then,
Always looking for more
then
fans.
one market deck over the other for Watery Graves.
The goal is that they both work. The goal is that both are playable and both will give you a different experience. Each will give you a different experience. We did most of our testing with the original market and because that's what existed. But it will work fine with Dungeons. Obviously Dungeons is getting some tweaks, but yeah, that's another type of mechanical replay value.
Or replayability.
Yeah.
So the book that was mentioned is Brandon Sanderson's Big Secret Novel, and it came out earlier this year. I don't know if that was the one. I think there was a massive Kickstarter from that author.
Oh yeah.
I'm so behind. I'm still reading Red Rising for the first time. So
so good. Red Rising, so good.
So yeah, we'll have to check that out. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, Brandon Sanderson's newest book.
definitely.
Or get it on Audible. We're big Audible fans when we're doing a road trip. Okay, we got more questions. All right, keep the questions coming in. What's most exciting to create? Stories like this or single encounter stuff, like in a competing game, PvP?
Like competing, meaning like PvP or.
I think that's
Legendary.
Or maybe they're talking about for other companies' games, like so basically, I guess take the single encounter versus big stories, which is more fun to work on.
Big stories, I would say. I mean, the legendary encounter games that we make usually have multiple like
movies,
ways to play through different movies or a TV show, but they're more linear.
Right.
So they're really fun. I mean, they're both fun from a design perspective because when it's more linear, we can sort of put things on rails, and we know things will be on rails a little bit, which helps with development, as you guys know. When it's a big story like Watery Graves, it's harder, like you said. Like it's impossible for us to actually test every race class combination with every boss. It's impossible. So that
they
part
didn't mean like legendary versus like a Ruin of Thandar type
of
thing.
thing.
And then there's I guess and a different axis to consider, and both are good. I don't have a preference, I don't think, but when we do the legendary games, it starts with an IP from a movie, or like how do we capture the feel of a James Bond movie? How do we or Aliens? How do we make it feel like a little scary or whatever? When we do Hero Realms, it's Wise Wizards IP, right? It's sort of like a fantasy setting with different kinds of.
We have a little more agency with the story.
Yeah, and if we want there to be pirates that go up and down the river that have this sort of motivations, we can just do that. So that was.
Although Danny did get, this is cool, for Alien after we did the movies, Danny came up with concepts and wrote stories for 2 more movies in the game, and it got approved, and they're out there, and you can play them, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's fantastic!
We made original stories, So
I mean, in the game,
he's gonna poo-poo it now.
No, not pros. Like we wanted to do flying aliens, like the Zealand with the.
What's scarier than?
Yeah, now they can fly. So we had to sort of build to justify what did they kill.
And it's possible, like at some point, a movie will come out and it'll have something in it that you designed for the game, because they own the materials now. So yeah,
we will not have that a royalty check.
No, we sure won't. But we'll appreciate it. That was cool. It was cool to get to do our own sort of weird stuff, but it was mechanics led. We were like, how would flying aliens work in the game? Okay, now let's write a sort of a backstory around it.
That's a good point though. It's usually an IP that exists, and we're sort of letting you tell your own story within those guardrails. That same sort of story. Yeah.
Right.
Like here, Ripley died.
But does Ripley die this time? Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
What is this now?
If you could change one aspect of the Hero Realms rules to make the campaign making job easier, what would it be? What existing aspect of Hero Realms do you think would make your job easier?
All right, so I'll give you two answers here.
Pay
I guess.
attention, Rob.
I think
The
that's
first-
how we could make your job easier.
This might be a boring answer, I don't know, but so to make the physical campaign easier, I would change how discard works because the master doesn't have a hand.
Sure.
So we have to kind of cheat what discard means, and
Yeah.
that doesn't just affect the cards in the market; it affects the treasures that are going to do weirdo discard effects, right? Like, so all of that has to be sort of converted to fit into the.
I like how it's handled in the app.
But in the app campaign, we can, because the AI can actually play a normal hand. You know, we didn't want in the physical campaign. We came up with the master sort of flipping one card and doing one thing per turn.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't have the master. We didn't want the players to have to like play a hand for the master. That would have been like unwieldy. So, but
That's
in the
kind
app,
of what Lost decks do. If you want somebody to play the bad guy, that's a totally different experience.
right. But in the app, the AI can just play like the normal game. So discard can just be what discard does. So I guess that's easier. So yeah, I would I guess that's 1.5 answers.
Yeah.
Existing aspect of Hero Realms, do you think makes your job easier?
I think the 4 colors.
Yeah.
Four colors is nice to have those colors just as a basis. Everyone understands them. They all mean different things. There's design space in each of the 4 colors, and then the flipping, just sort of works. That it adds that unpredictability and flavor for the color. I like the 4 colors a lot.
Yeah. It does a ton of work. It's aesthetically appealing, right? Like like just the flavor of them, but
100%.
like it's something people can hook into. I mean, that's just good Hero Realms in general, but we make use of it in the campaign.
Yeah. We're gonna add a 5th color for the next
Purple.
Pink.
Pink.
Mari has been movie to games and now games to movies. Traditionally it's been movie to games, and now we're seeing more games to movies.
Yeah.
So I've heard about The Last of Us. A friend of mine said I have to watch it, but I have nightmares when I watch something scary, and I'm worried about that. So, but how good is it? Have you guys seen it, Danny and Ben?
It's so good. I've only seen the first 3 episodes, but
That's what's out, right?
it's, I think the 4th one just came out, but I didn't play the game. I didn't know. I knew a little bit about the game.
I didn't know it was a game,
Yeah.
so that's new to me.
Some of it is going to be familiar if you know Walking Dead at all. Like some of it's not so far as scary as The Walking Dead.
But he's not in the Mandalorian. He doesn't use his armor that much. That's what I don't understand.
No, he doesn't. But he does. He does.
I feel
turn
like he
his
can
helmet.
kill the zombies real easily with the bird.
Maybe it's still with
Armor.
What did the Jawas like talking to Saul
yeah.
for a while? Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely are gonna be watching The Last of Us, but we're trying to decide is there how to best handle the Debbie fear factor show.
I have to leave all the lights on then when I go to sleep.
It's a lot more dread, I would say, than fear. Like there's not a lot of boom.
I've watched The Walking Dead.
So
it's not as scary as Walking Dead.
First few episodes, very, very early on, there was this great scene where the main character is going down a staircase in the hospital, and he's got a little lighter to use his only source of light, and it keeps going out and is walking down the stairs. So I'm not gonna give away plot points, but basically just the way that scene was handled, so terrifying, so well done. I love the work that they did with that show many years ago, of course. But
I watched the first couple seasons and I was like, I don't know if I can keep going. It's just
it's
exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It was scary.
Oh, someone commented to watch episode 3, and they're right. Episode 3 is almost like a standalone episode, and it's A+++ wonderful. Just even if you have no other context, it's just super good.
One episode.
Let's see the favorite movie, book, or show.
What's your favorite movie, book, or show involving pirates or sea adventures?
My favorite are the Patrick O'Brian books, which are the Captain Jack Aubrey books, and Master and Commander, which is the movie that got made, 20 years ago now. I think is an excellent adaptation of sort of 2 books. But those books are wonderful, and that movie, I think, is underrated. It was nominated for an Oscar, but did not win.
Yeah, it was good. And I like everything's different these days, but like Jack Sparrow and the they just kind of went for it in those movies. They're silly, but like the giant big set pieces of like ship battles and stuff are just they're just fun. So
yeah,
that's a similar tone, I think, like a lighthearted but action packed kind of stuff.
Yeah. What about you guys? What do you like for Pirates and Sea Adventure?
Like, what was that? I think it was an HBO series we watched.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
so good.
the,
It's more like dark and like
Black Sails?
Black Sails. That
I
was
liked
that
that
was
a
fun.
lot.
Yeah.
Some of it was a little disturbing, but yes, I enjoyed that series.
So I don't know if we want to answer that one.
Sure.
So someone Martin asked about which is more pressure to recapture a known story. So I mean, I keep sort of answering in a different way, but I feel like with it's one is easier to do than the other in terms of like it gives you a starting point. Like when it's a known story, that's like a launch pad. We're just like, oh, okay, like players already will be familiar with this content. If they bought an Aliens game or a James Bond game, they probably know James Bond or maybe even the specific movie. So that's doing some flavor work for us. And one of our
Counterpoint.
Okay.
You also have fans of that thing, and if you don't please those fans, it can be harder.
Yeah, they might see it a certain way. I think this was 10 years ago, but I said the wrong name of a character, and we were demoing, and I said like
didn't let the bit get to you.
I said like you brought it up like a week ago. I said it was in Aliens, and we were demoing, and I think I said Drake instead of like Frost. Right? Yeah. And and I guess somebody was like complaining, like the designer doesn't even know the names, and I was like, I didn't lose sleep. I lost a little bit, but yeah, there's more pressure when it's a known IP, but you have more hooks to do the work for you. And then so like we have in the Aliens game, one of the big things that happens sort of early on is you flip over cards. You're like scanning and you flip over cards. They come face down, the bad guy cards. And you scan to flip them over, and then if it's a face hugger, it like goes on your character. You have a character in front of you, and then like it just kills you. Like if you don't deal with it within like a certain amount of time. So whenever you're scanning, it adds a certain amount of like, oh god, oh no, like, well, is it gonna be okay? It's just an alien. We can shoot it with our guns, but oh god, it's a face hugger. And to Deb's point about when does the master ever help you out? Once in a while in Aliens, you flip it over, and it's like a cat. Like there's a cat in the first movie that's like their cat. It's
not
just,
once in a while, one time
in that movie.
I hope I flipped that.
Listen, I would be happy to put a cat in every one, but that's not in the story.
Right. You find Newt. I don't know if you remember Newt's the little girl from the second Alien. You find Newt, and then she goes in your deck and helps you out, right? So once in a while you get that breath of like you were mentioning, Rob, about like you got excited sometimes in the campaign when an unexpected thing works or happens or whatever, or more likely we just cheat and throw extra bad guys at you on like turn 8, and you're like, oh god.
It sounds like a diplomatic answer or like a cop out, I guess, but they're both really fun to design. But like something like Hero Realms, with like it's not a blank page because there's existing lore, but Rob and Darwin and Debbie, like we sort of pitch. They are like, that sounds good, go for it, so they let us sort of have a lot of leeway in making the story, which is super fun for us because like we like telling stories too. Like I always wished I could be a writer, so
write cards.
Yeah. I write Valentine's Day cards.
Well, and in Hero Realms, like we make like those hooks I was talking about, like we just kind of make them ourselves by picking a trope that is well known, like pirates or like sea monster or zombies or whatever. It's on the box. There's a picture of one of the things on the box.
We've shown some of the undead art previously, so yes.
Yeah. So once you have a trope, like because Hero Realms has some unique stuff to it in the lore, but also it's trying to be very universal, right? You guys know like what there's expectations. When it's a barbarian, he's going to go into a berserker rage, right? Oh, and then mechanically he does, right? Or she does. So we picked the tropes like, well, what would we do on Sea Adventure, right? Like or zombies. We like in Lost Village we started mechanically, like what if the master could enter the player area, what would that mean mechanically? And then we worked backwards to figure out, we'll make them into animals. And then, if they're going to be animals, we'll tie that into the storyline of what's happening. Yeah, the boar charges, or the bull charges, and the boar kind of goes berserk around. So we essentially we start with we'll put something in the game that should be recognizable to the player. How would this thing work? And then we make it work mechanically like that, so we can kind of create our own launch pad. So
it's always really satisfying when you can have a game mechanic that feels right, like it feels to the player like, hey, this feels like the thing that could happen, like with the the Aliens game when you get like an alien inside you, or you know, like the just
Yeah,
the,
Death Burster.
Yeah, and the card goes into your deck, and
It's
then when
terrifying.
you draw it, it pops out.
It's just drawing a piece of paper, but it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
And there's a
yeah.
chance
So
you can get rid of it if
yeah,
you
like
have-
yeah, when that mechanic, it's like, okay, well, this is a game mechanic. This card just getting shuffled your deck, and when you draw it, a bad thing happens. Okay, it's a mechanic, but like when you marry it to a story element like that, and it feels like, oh, that feels like the thing that you're trying to represent. That can be, yeah, that's just so satisfying. And like,
Very
so
satisfying.
like for example, like the bull in like smashing into your player area and like, you know, just charging people and getting up in their face. It just feels right. It feels like that feels like the mechanic feels
I feel
like
like the
what
imp.
cards represent.
Oh, sorry. I think the imp making you discard because it's just so annoying.
So annoying.
But it doesn't hurt you directly. You know, like you're like, oh god, it's so annoying.
Yeah, one thing we try to do either encounter to encounter or adventure box to adventure box is, or in the legendary games, you know, movie to movie, is you want to throw new things at the player that they haven't seen before, that they have to adjust how they play. So for example, the very first Ruin of Thandar encounter is very straightforward. We just wanted to teach you the mechanics, and he's hitting you, he's healing, and you got to go after them and just sort of defeat them. But with the second encounter, right away we're like, you know, this is more timed. Like there's an escape card in the deck. If it once it goes through the deck, if the escape cards flip, you just lose. They escape. So you're actually racing against them. And after you play it a few times, we also like to make sure that like when you lose, you can learn something to try to improve your chances for the next time. But one of the things we did was like, you realize, oh, they're not actually putting a lot of damage pressure on you.
No.
It's mostly about like for example, like when there's like a vampire that shows up in that second encounter that heals, and you're like, oh, that's actually more threatening. Healing the master is more dangerous because it's going to buy them time than them just damaging you outright. And then, you know, and obviously we get to the demon encounter, and there's, you know, this demon's the aggressive one, this is the armored one, this is the weird one that's like making you lose your cards, right? So so we try to throw those kind of wrinkles at stuff, which we then, you know, did very differently in Lost Village. Lost Village was what happens if masters go into, you know, the player area. Someone asked, what is the mechanic we're most proud of? And I would say, I'm sort of leading up to this, but my favorite is actually that second encounter in Lost Village, where there's 5 different masters. Each one's like an animal, like, you know, a dangerous animal kind of being, and they each have their own shtick, right? Like the bear, you can't heal, and the raven wants shiny stuff, right? And each player starts with their own one in their own area. So you're kind of on your own. You're just, oh crap, I have to deal with this thing. You have to deal with that thing. And that will inform like what kind of market cards you want to buy to give yourself the best chance. And then once you finished off yours, you can then help out your teammates, right? So because like we also try to put, these are cooperative games, right? So we want to put in elements where you can help out. So that's my favorite encounter. I'd say the broad mechanic that I like the best is just the areas. Like basically we found a way to add a little bit of physical space to the, you know, like, you know, you're to my right, I can help you, you're to my left, I can help you, but they can't help each other unless it's a effect. But that's what I would say. I don't know.
Ballista.
The ballista.
I mean, what's more fun than firing a giant ballista? Come on.
A huge chunk.
I think my favorite's in Watery Graves, so you'll have to check back in.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Combinations of things are fun.
Yes, so I like that a lot.
Oh, thanks.
David said that's
Thank you.
Great games. We also had a few comments here of what pirate movies and shows people liked. We have
I agree about
Pirates.
Pirates.
Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Mm-hmm.
It's great. Music's
ending.
great.
Secret of Monkey Island. I'm
Nice.
not familiar with that, but we'll have to check that out.
Lucas Arts. Yeah.
Yeah, and then someone also brought up in the Heroes digital campaign, there's also where if you make it to a certain point, you get some champions. Another example of where some good things can actually happen in a campaign. It's not all beating you down.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we try to go.
We'll make a one where you just like get a hug
It's
in
all
the first
positive.
encounter, and then the second encounter you get a cupcake.
Can there be some
Your choice of different
since we
sandwiches.
have full leeway? I would like to play this campaign.
Yeah. You ride a unicorn.
Well,
I think we need to
sometimes
do
like-
IP for this.
So sometimes we like to make it look more impossible than it, like there's a Star Realms. I won't get into the details, but there's a Star Realms fight where you kind of like you start off in a bad position. This is in one of the digital campaigns, and then if you're able to fight your way back and sort of defeat the bad guy, a bunch more bad guys show up, and you're like, what is this? This is impossible. But what the player doesn't know is they've already won the game. once the bad guys sort of wipe them out, that then they get to go to the victory screen and you get some story elements that explain it. But it's it's basically like you screw around with the player's emotions in a way that will ultimately be rewarding for them.
We could give more cupcakes. Yeah.
More cupcakes. Just you're fighting a cupcake. It's like a giant.
You're fighting it.
That's a very classic trope.
You're
where
befriending
you're
it so you
fighting
can
a
then
cupcake.
eat it when it's not weird.
You're fighting because you want to eat it.
Yes.
And we're gonna need another mechanic and 20 more cards.
20 more pieces of art.
Yeah.
We'll
draw the
question
cupcake
for you from Dan the Meek. When should we expect Kapow and Robot Quest campaigns and other games?
Yeah, so basically campaigns and other games, a lot of that depends on the game type and like the IP. So for example, with Robot Quest, we're working with Perfect Day, who owns the IP, and we're in discussions on new content. So we may have some campaign play there. But at any rate, like that's stuff like the quick answer is I'm not sure, but it's something that we're always keeping our eye on. Because the cooperative, when you can take a game and make it cooperative and have like story experiences in it, that's it's a really big add to the gameplay. Okay, so I think it was a pretty good session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you guys want to say on your way out to the players?
We'll never scrap you.
We'll never scrap you.
We'll never scrap you.
Nice. I may sacrifice you guys. It's possible.
Fair.
Very fair. I would
winning the game. When he's playing a game, there's no mercy.
I would never scrap or sacrifice you unless it gave me some serious game advantage. So
all right, we'll take it.
Or moderate game advantage. Either.
Yeah, the slightest game.
The slightest game advantage. 1% chance of winning.
All right, and I have a couple questions for you, so we'll just stay on for a minute at the end.
All right,
Thank
you,
you,
Danny and Ben.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.